In 1973, the horror movie genre changed forever. The Exorcist invaded silver screens around the world. It quickly became controversial and an enigma. Cinemas full of patrons were exposed to gnarly, grotesque, and a terrifying display of a battle for the life of a child. Reports of fainting, vomiting, and screams of terror dominated news outlets. For decades, The Exorcist reigned supreme as the ultimate horror movie experience. The true terror wasn't named Reagan. It was known by the alias Roland Doe. Roland Doe's story is far more horrific than the fictionalized version via the big screen. His pain and suffering lasted for months. The following is the real story and the war for the soul of Roland Doe. This is the true story of The Exorcist. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Haunted America. Today's episode, I didn't even know about this. This episode is all thanks to our friend JD, who I have on the line with us once again. Ladies and gentlemen, JD.
Hey everyone. I was quite surprised that our host here didn't know about the actual true story that inspired the movie The Exorcist. You definitely want to tune into this one. This is very, very creepy and evil stuff. Very much looking forward to talk about it.
Dude, for true story movies, they always put it at the beginning or at the end or whatever, based on true events or whatever, right? You think
Right.
One like this, I would have actually looked into and been like, oh yeah, so this is this is actually what happened, blah, blah, blah. Nope, I watched the movies and I'm like, damn, this is a good movie. This is crazy. No, not once did I actually look into the real story behind all this. Not freaking once. I feel like an idiot. And but I'm sharing that all with you guys, so I'm proud of my ignorance, I guess is how I'll put it. And we fixed that with this episode, hopefully.
Well, to defend you though, most movies that say based on a true story, very loosely based.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, it really doesn't have much connection. Now, as the audience will see, those that are not familiar with the true story, it is similar, but not, as tightly knit to the original story. But this is a situation where the original is far more terrifying, just like you said in the intro, than what was on the screen.
Right. Without further ado, let's get right into tonight's episode, everybody. This is the true story of The Exorcist. The Hunklers, a small German immigrant family, settled down in a small Maryland suburb just outside of Washington, D.C. They had a small only child, now known by his real name, Roland Hunkler. Am I pronouncing that right, Hunkler?
I believe so.
Okay, yeah.
Your guess is as good as mine.
For a period of time, his identity was simply known as the pseudonym names Roland Doe and Robbie Mannheim. Forgive me, guys. I messed up Roland and Ronald. His real name is Ronald Hunkler. That's on me. I apologize. Back to the story. Ronald was particularly close to his aunt named Harriet. Harriet was a spiritualist. She often educated her nephew about spiritualism. One of those lessons, unfortunately, involved the practice of using a Ouija board.
No to Ouija boards. Just say no, okay, kids? Say no to Ouija boards.
In January of 1949, Ronald's Aunt Harriet passed away. Ronald was absolutely devastated. He and his aunt were very close, and Ronald just wasn't ready to let go. It is believed that Ronald would use his spiritualistic education via the Ouija board to talk to his now deceased aunt. The Ouija board was regularly used, and soon after, activity began. The activity escalated quickly and violently. The activity reported began with tapping and scratching on the house walls. It quickly adapted to furniture routinely moving on its own inside the once cozy cottage, City, Maryland home. Witness accounts from friends and neighbors stated that objects would mysteriously move on their own, especially when Ronald was around. Ronald's once described calm nature began to also change. He became withdrawn, irritable, and would have outbursts of rage all the time. The violent behavior noticeably occurred at night. The family began to consult with experts. The family doctor and even psychiatrists provided little to no help. Finally, after things continued to get worse, the family decided to contact their local Lutheran pastor, Reverend Luther Miles Scholes. Scholes would witness for himself the unnatural activity revolving around Ronald. Ronald's bed would shake violently, and objects would fly across the room. Scholes would also notice the boy's aggressive reaction to sacred objects. The pastor quickly concluded that this situation was beyond his expertise. He recommended the family to reach out to the Catholic Church for help. Father Edward Albert Hughes, a local Catholic priest, was apprised of Ronald's deteriorating situation. It didn't take long for Hughes to conclude that the family was dealing with a demonic possession. He quickly reached out to his superiors with the recommendation of an exorcism. The Catholic Church agreed and granted permission to exorcise Ronald Hunkler. In February of 1949, the first round of exorcism rituals on Ronald were performed. Unfortunately, those rituals could never be completed. Hughes had Ronald strapped down to his mattress to begin the prayers and exorcism rites. However, Ronald would break a piece of metal spring from the mattress and attack Hughes. Hughes was stabbed and had his shoulder severely lacerated. In the days after the failed attempt, Ronald's skin began to welt. The presence he had inside decided to communicate, and bloody red marks spelling Lewis appeared on the boy. Alright, before we dive back into tonight's haunted tale, I've got to tell you something that actually keeps me going through all these late night investigations, and that's Dubby Energy. Look, when you're up at 2 a.m. reviewing EVP recordings or scrolling through ghost footage, the last thing you need is a sugar crash or shaky hands. Dubby gives you clean, focused energy. No jitters, no crash, and definitely no creepy side effects. It's packed with natural caffeine, vitamins, and nootropics. Everything you need to stay alert when the shadows start to move. And if you want to try it yourself, here's a little treat. Or maybe a trick. Head to dubby.gg. Use the code HAUNT10 at checkout to save 10% on your order. That's HAUNT10 to get 10% off and keep your energy level higher than your EMF readings. Dubby Energy. Fuel your focus and maybe your next ghost hunt. Ronald's mother, being originally from St. Louis, took this as a sign to seek help there. So they moved. Once in St. Louis, the family immediately contacted Father Raymond Bishop. Bishop was a clerical professor from the St. Louis University. A reverend by the name of William Bowdern also came in to help the boy. It's now March of 1949. 2 months of pure suffering. Ronald's behavior began to worsen. At night, the boy would enter what was described as a trance-like state. During this state, Ronald would unleash guttural sounds and have violent outbursts. Bishop and Bowdern reportedly seen objects floating near Ronald. The holy team then prepared for their attempt to exorcise Ronald Hunkler. The rituals lasted several days, some sources stating up to several weeks. During the exorcisms, Ronald's guttural sounds became a voice speaking in Latin, a language he was not well versed in. Witnesses also declared that the boy would levitate. The bed. This is just creepy. The bed would again begin to violently shake. Chairs would topple over. His skin would once again begin to welt. It is reported that red marks resembling a pitchfork in the word of hell would appear on Ronald's body. One source cited that an X appeared on his chest. It was thought to be for the Roman numeral for 10, meaning that his body contained 10 separate demonic entities. This was reportedly seen by Bowdern. After 6 days of exorcism, over several weeks, March 20th, the situation became too much for the Hunkler family. Ronald had now started urinating himself and shouting and cursing at the priest. The priest never gave up, though, but the family was ready to find a new path. It just had been too much for them to bear. Ronald Hunkler was transferred to the Alexian Brothers Hospital in St. Louis for more serious treatment. After nearly 1 month inside the walls of the hospital, a final confrontation occurred. On April 18th of 1949, the Monday after Easter, Ronald began having seizures and shouting that Satan would always be with him. In a last-ditch effort to save Ronald's life and soul, the priest at the Alexian Brothers Hospital gathered holy relics, crucifixes, medals, and rosaries laid across the body that were thought to contain up to 10 demonic demons. Priests gathered and shouted at Satan that Saint Michael the Archangel would come to battle for the soul of the boy. The violent episode began to dwindle. The boy began to calm down. He awoke and simply said, "He's gone." Ronald described a vision of Saint Michael the Archangel defeating and casting out the demons tormenting him. The priest, William Van Roe, and Water Halloran, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, had finally succeeded. Halloran had suffered a broken nose during the final ritual, but that paled in comparison to the suffering of Ronald Hunkler and his family. The exorcism of Ronald Hunkler, or Roland Doe, would shape the perception of the practice going forward. The church viewed it as a true testament to the power and preparation, and how to document it in the future. Pop culture in the United States would use this story as the foundation for exorcism movies forever. Thankfully, the story has a happy ending. Ronald Hunkler went on to live a happy and normal life. The house where the Missouri rituals were performed still stands today. The walls of the privately owned home at 8435 Roanoke Drive in Belnor, Missouri, witnessed true horror. It's currently not open for tours, but you can access still photos of the home from 2015, including the staircase. It is still a fascinating location that garners enthusiasts seeking a quick drive-by experience. Holy cow. Yeah. So that's the story, the real story of the exorcism. What do you got to say, JD? Help me out a little bit here, bud.
So, listening to this and reading and researching about it to prepare for this episode, can you imagine fighting this, whether it's 1 or 10, for 3 to 4 consecutive months?
Yeah, no.
And seeing people that are supposed to be the holiest of holy, that are using everything in their power to save you, and nothing is working. I mean, talk about a test of will. How that boy did not give up is a miracle itself.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think I would be able to freaking do it. I'll tell you that right now. That's a lot to put the human body through, and there's a lot of examples out there, of people being exorcised, right? And after they're done with, their body is weak, they're not really back to being normal for a while after it, right? And that's for, a possession that was maybe a week or two, a couple days, that kind of thing. Imagine for months. I don't even. I can't even imagine.
And just to, I know that we kind of make light of this because, the Ouija board thing, but this is a perfect example as to why you shouldn't touch
don't mess with them.
This boy was just simply trying to communicate with his aunt that he loved and missed.
Yep.
And the only thing it got him was 4 months of pure pain and suffering.
Pain and torture. That's why you never know what you're letting in when you mess with a Ouija board, man. You never know what you're bringing in.
Speaking of the home, like you just said, it still stands today. It's not open to the public or anything like that. It's actually being lived in, from what I understand. People are aware of what happened in the home.
Mm-hmm.
But if you was to just, I don't know, someone's in that home is a Haunted America podcast fan and says, I would love for Dalton to go inside our home, open that door that he can open to that third eye. First of all, would you do it? And how much guts would it take to do it? I gotta know your reaction to that question.
I probably would not. I probably wouldn't go inside the house. Just out of precaution for the possibility of something still being in there that I don't want to even be near. Just knowing that a Ouija board was used there. That right there throws me off of that idea. I mean, I would probably drive by it. I might stand on the road and look at the house. But
keeping a distance.
Yeah, I don't think I would step foot inside that house. I don't think I would step foot inside there. But that's just me. So.
But with it being such a horrific event and a powerful event, obviously, the likelihood of residual energy,
mm-hmm.
And to what you just said, I hadn't actually ever thought of this before, but you said just because a Ouija board had been used there, so I'm guessing you believe that it could have almost like a spiritual scar attached to it.
Yeah. So they say there's ways to close the portal or whatever that opens up when you use a Ouija board, right? There's a right way to close it out, apparently. I don't think that's true. Once you open it up, if something comes in, I don't think you're really ever getting rid of that. You leave that open, and those things can keep coming back as long as they want to. Unless an exorcism is done on the house, right? to be able to get those things out of the house as well. And I don't know. It's too much for me, I think, or whatever. I wouldn't risk it. I wouldn't even want to step foot in there. I know that's, it's an attraction for people. They want to be able to go there, but with the residual energy that could still be there, I wouldn't do it, because I guarantee there's still stuff happening in that house. I don't know how anybody could live in that house after that. Turn it into Airbnb for ghost hunters that are brave enough to go in there and try to communicate. I would not do it.
One thing that I want to add is, and I couldn't find whenever I was doing more research. I remember coming across. I'm not sure if it was on YouTube or if it was through a website, but and I don't know if it's true or not. So we can just talk about it as if, just for the sake of talking about it. But there was one article, YouTube video, whatever, that stated that at one point some of the belongings that, like the bed frame that Roland Doe actually was on whenever these exorcism attempts were occurring, were actually put in storage.
Oof.
And that anytime that they were accessed, like very violent things, I want to say, I don't want to, say anything that's not true. So I can't remember exactly, but I just remember some very negative things occurring as a result of them, going into that storage locker and mingling with the bed frame and other things that had come out of that house.
Oh yeah, I don't doubt that. So, I mean, these entities can attach themselves to more than just humans. I mean, you hear all the time, haunted dolls, haunted artifacts. That's just got to be another one that falls into that category. Haunted artifact, his freaking bed, his bed frame. And that's, I'm telling you, if anything is around that's still part of that, I wouldn't go near it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even putting it in storage, I mean, come on. Putting it in storage is going to hide it away from maybe the house itself for a little bit, yeah. But there could still be things attached to that object. And I wouldn't be messing with it.
With just one last thing I'd like to add, I feel like that, what we obviously are all here to talk about these things and for entertainment value, obviously, but I feel like this story is kind of different because this one tells you just how serious this world can be, the paranormal world. Do not mess with things that you don't know what you're doing with.
Yep.
Because there are real consequences. So if you're, delving in things that you don't quite understand, make sure you're educated before you do those things. Because unfortunately, this boy suffered a long time just because he loved someone that he couldn't quite let go.
He wanted to communicate with somebody and ended up costing him big time here. So you exercise precaution, exactly what he just said there, pretty much. Exercise precaution when you are, if you are going to do stuff like this. Find out ways to protect yourself, and don't be the next Roland Doe. Don't be the next Ronald Henkler. Pretty much what we're trying to say here. That's going to do it for tonight's episode of Haunted America. JD, I appreciate you coming back on the show, my man. And hopefully we can have you back on again here in the near future. If you guys are still listening and you want to support this podcast, there is a link down below. You can click on that, subscribe to the podcast for $3.99 a month. That'll get you access to a subscriber-only episode every Tuesday of the month. Only available to subscribers. Follow us on Facebook and YouTube for more Haunted America content. And that's going to do it for us at Haunted America. Appreciate everybody listening, and we'll catch you guys on the next one.